There comes a moment, quiet, unsettling, and often unexpected, when many people notice a strange shift inside themselves. The very things that once lit them up from inside simply stop doing so. The music that once stirred their soul now feels like background noise. Meals taste oddly muted. Even the laughter of friends seems to echo in a kind of emotional emptiness. And it doesn't stop there. The activities they once called their true passions, losing themselves in a book, wandering through forests, crafting beauty with their own hands, suddenly feel like someone turned the saturation down on life. Everything is still there, but somehow drained of color, stripped of its familiar spark. Naturally, when this happens, people panic. They assume something is fundamentally broken. They begin to wonder if they've slipped into depression, if their body is failing them, if some mysterious chemical glitch has hijacked their brain. Others conclude that life has simply worn them thin, that they become cynical, tired, dulled by too many disappointments. In their worry, they ask the most human of questions. What happened to me? Why do I feel so numb? But here's where master wisdom offers a different lens, one that might feel surprising. What if this fading of pleasure isn't a malfunction at all? What if this emotional quieting is less like a shutdown and more like a doorway? What if what feels like the death of old joys is actually the early stirrings of something new, something subtler, deeper, not yet visible because the mind is still searching for familiar fireworks, the old emotional signatures, the previous versions of happiness? Let's take a moment to explore what might really be unfolding here. Many people don't realize this, but what we usually label as joy in everyday life is often just a clever disguise for relief. It's the pleasant sigh that comes after satisfying some inner tension. You're hungry, you eat, and voila, instant happiness. But if you think about it, that happiness relies entirely on hunger. Without the empty stomach, eating is just chewing because you have teeth. Or take loneliness. When someone finally notices you, it feels wonderful, but only because something inside you felt incomplete a moment before. Remove the loneliness, and the attention doesn't land the same way. It's like complimenting a cat. The words are there, but the cat simply does not care. This is precisely what ancient teachers, including those often quoted on Master Wisdom, were hinting at when they described life as fundamentally unsatisfying. Not miserable, not hopeless, just structurally unstable. A cosmic game of I want again, powered by a subtle sense that something is missing. So we run around collecting tiny bursts of relief, calling them happiness. But in reality, most of these moments are simply pauses in discomfort. Imagine someone tapping you lightly on the head with a hammer. When they finally stop, you feel grateful, but logically, the real mystery is why the tapping began at all. Now here's the twist. For some people, something profound starts to happen. And if you're experiencing this emotional flatness, this applies to you. You begin to see the whole system for what it is. You start to notice that almost every pleasure is action escape route, a way to outrun some unseen discomfort. And once this insight sinks in, not just in your thoughts, but deep in your body, the old thrills simply stop working. The itch is no longer satisfying to scratch, because you finally realize you've been manufacturing the itch in the first place. It's a bit like an addict taking a substance to feel better, forgetting that the craving was created by the substance itself. When you understand this mechanism, the entire structure collapses. What once felt like joy now looks more like a cycle, and cycles lose their magic once you see the gears turning. That's why you feel the way you do. You've glimpsed the truth behind the pleasure-pain chase. You've sensed that the joys you used to pursue were often just creative ways of fleeing the present moment, or fleeing yourself. And now, here you are in an unusual territory. The old pleasures don't land. The usual distractions don't distract. The emotional fireworks no longer explode on command. It creates a sensation that feels eerily like dying. You move through your routine as if something vital has evaporated, as if you're watching your own life from the outside. But don't be fooled. This isn't an ending. This is an interval, the quiet space between the life you've outgrown and the life you haven't yet stepped into. You're not broken. You're in transit. You're standing right in the doorway of transformation. The gap, and then comes a gap, that strange stretch of inner space where everything feels unfamiliar. It's unsettling because there's nothing left to cling to. The old emotional anchors have dissolved, and the new ones haven't formed yet. You're essentially floating, and humans are famously not good at floating unless it involves pool noodles. Let's bring this to life with a simple image. Picture yourself having lived your entire existence in a room illuminated only by candles. The soft glow creates moving shadows on the walls, mysterious shapes that twist, merge, and dance. You spend your whole life studying those shadows, interpreting them, getting caught up in their drama. And in their own way, those flickers keep you entertained. They feel meaningful. This is what ordinary pleasures are like. Not fake, not worthless, but limited by the tiny flame that produces them. Now imagine someone opens a door and a flood of daylight pours in. Not a gentle morning beam. No, the kind of blinding blast that makes you squint like you just read the terms and conditions of life for the first time. For a moment, everything looks wrong. Too bright, too empty. Every shadow you relied on, every little dance you used to follow, gone. And naturally you panic. You think, everything interesting has vanished. Life has gone beige. But here's the twist. You're not seeing nothing. You're seeing too much. Your eyes haven't learned how to receive this new level of clarity. You're overwhelmed, not deprived. Once your inner vision adjusts, you'll realize you didn't lose the world. You lost the illusions. And in doing so, you gain access to reality itself. Not the shadow puppets on the wall, but the vast landscape outside the room, richer, deeper, infinitely more alive. But this richness comes with a different texture. It's not flashy. It's not entertainment. It doesn't tap dance for your attention. It's steady, subtle, quietly luminous, a kind of nourishment your old self never knew how to taste. And this is exactly what's unfolding when nothing seems to bring you joy anymore. The shadows have stopped captivating you, but the daylight hasn't yet resolved into clarity. You're stuck in that in-between moment. The threshold where the old world has dissolved and the new one is still blurry. This transitional space can last a while, and it often feels like confusion, emptiness, or emotional numbness. But in truth, it's simply the period where your inner eyes are learning how to see again. And here's the part many people struggle with. This transition cannot be hurried. No amount of spiritual caffeine will speed it up. Just as your eyes need time to adjust when stepping out of a dark room into the sun, your inner vision adjusts on its own timeline, not yours. But the usual human instinct is, well, the opposite. People scramble to resurrect the old feelings, the familiar sparks. They pick up new hobbies, jump into relationships, chase adrenaline, amplify their playlists, or fill their schedules with anything loud, intense, or glittery, as if emotional numbness can be bullied into submission. It's a bit like someone whose sense of taste has faded and decide the answer is more chili, then more chili, until their mouth is basically reenacting a volcanic eruption. And yet, nothing. The tragedy is that this approach doesn't just fail, it deepens the emptiness. Because the remedy to this state isn't more, it's less. The medicine is not stimulation, it's stillness. The real shift begins when you stop running from the silence, stop trying to decorate the emptiness, stop treating your inner world like a room that constantly needs new furniture. What's needed is simply to sit with what's here, without twisting it into something else, without bribing it with entertainment, and without bargaining with your own experience. And then something remarkable happens. When you stop trying to manufacture joy, you start to notice a quiet presence that was always there, patiently waiting behind the noise. You didn't see it before because you were too preoccupied with chasing the next hit of pleasure, that tiny spark from the candle shadows in the earlier analogy. This presence isn't joy in the old way. It doesn't jump up and down. It's more like a steady inner yes, a grounded sense that life is fundamentally all right, even when it's not comfortable. It's not perfection, it's completeness, a subtle enoughness. The joys you once chased relied on contrast. Good days versus bad days, excitement versus boredom, pleasure versus discomfort. But this newfound sense doesn't rely on anything. It doesn't come or go. It's like stepping back and realizing that the thing you spent your whole life searching for was a house you were already living in. There it was, around you, supporting you, containing you the entire time. You were so busy searching for treasures in rooms that you missed the structure that held them all. But let's be honest about something. When we describe the state as okayness, you might feel a small wave of disappointment. Wait, that's it? Just being okay with life? No fireworks? No cosmic fanfare? And you'd be right. It's not exciting the way old pleasures were. It doesn't sizzle or sparkle or keep you up at night with anticipation. It's quieter, more grounded, less dramatic, but far more real. This new state doesn't come with the dramatic peaks and cinematic emotional waves that used to define your best moments. It lacks the roller coaster thrills, the highs that scrape the sky, and the plunges that left your stomach somewhere in the stratosphere. And here's the key insight. Those highs were never sustainable. Excitement burns fuel, a lot of it. Drama is like an emotional treadmill set to maximum incline, and the constant chase for life-altering moments eventually turns into a marathon no one can finish. Human beings weren't built to live permanently at the edge of an emotional cliff. What actually happens is simple. You get a brief spike of intensity, followed by a long, slow deflation while you wait for the next one. Over time, the lows deepen and the highs become harder to reach. You need louder thrills, bigger distractions, more stimulation just to feel alive again. This is a pattern of addiction, not necessarily to substances, but to experiences themselves. And most people, without realizing it, are hooked on the chaos of their own lives. They keep creating problems so they can feel triumphant when they solve them. They generate tension so they can enjoy the moment it releases. They stir their emotions like a pot of boiling soup because the boiling makes them feel important, dramatic, alive. They call this joy. But let's be honest, it's just agitation wearing perfume. So when nothing brings you joy anymore, what you've actually lost is your dependence on this cycle. It's not your sense of life that's dying. It's your addiction to intensity. And like anyone going through withdrawal, the first stage feels horrible. You feel hollow, flat, as if someone unplugged you. But beneath the discomfort, something profound is happening. You're finally experiencing the absence of inner turmoil. And because you've been stirred up for so long, the quiet feels unnatural, almost like a kind of death. To make this clearer, let me share a story. There was a man I once knew, a force of nature, always moving, always planning, always chasing the next thrill. He collected experiences the way some people collect mugs or fridge magnets. Flights, projects, passions. He wanted it all. He devoured books, traveled constantly, and prided himself on being a connoisseur of life's many flavors. And honestly, he thought he was winning. He believed he was squeezing every last drop from existence. But then, gradually, something shifted. Maybe it was age, maybe exhaustion, maybe life quietly tapped him on the shoulder. Who knows? Whatever the cause, his enthusiasm evaporated. What once thrilled him became dull. Travel felt tedious. Books lost their spark. Meals tasted strangely identical. And he became deeply depressed. He thought he had reached the end of his vitality, that he was worn out, broken, finished. But as you'll soon see, that wasn't the truth at all. But then, after drifting in that flat, joyless state for a while, something unexpected happened to him. One afternoon, he told me, he was simply sitting in his garden. No book, no phone, no grand purpose, just sitting. And in that quiet stillness, he suddenly noticed something astonishing. He was completely, utterly content, not thrilled, not inspired, not buzzing with excitement, just peacefully present, like the moment itself was enough company. And in that instant of clarity, he realized that his entire life of constant motion, the travel, the projects, the endless stimulation, had been a subtle escape, a way of running from the simplicity of just being here. The silence had terrified him, so he buried it under noise. But with all that activity stripped away, he finally met what he'd been avoiding. The naked truth of this moment, this breath, this humble miracle of being alive. And to his surprise, it wasn't lacking anything. It was full, abundantly full. His mind had dismissed the simplicity for years. Too quiet, too ordinary, too uneventful to count as real life. He mistook the absence of fireworks for emptiness, for meaninglessness, even for a kind of inner death. But the moment he stopped insisting that life impress him, life revealed that its ordinary face was extraordinary all along. This is exactly what you're being guided toward when nothing brings you joy in the way it used to. You're being invited into a new kind of experience. One that isn't built on a roller coaster of pleasure and pain, but on something softer, steadier, and much more honest. But here's the catch. You cannot engineer this discovery. You cannot wrestle it into existence. In fact, the more you try, the further it moves from reach. It's like trying to fall asleep by concentrating very hard on sleeping, a strategy that has never worked in the history of humanity. To arrive at this new state, you must let go of the frantic effort. You must surrender to the not knowing, to the not feeling, to the strange emptiness that scares you. And yes, this is incredibly difficult. We've been raised to fear emptiness, to treat silence as a threat, to interpret stillness as a sign that life has stopped. But in truth, emptiness is not the absence of life. It's the fertile ground from which new life grows. Emptiness is potential. As long as you're overflowing with old desires, old stories, old cravings for excitement, there's no open space for anything new to enter. You can't pour fresh water into a cup that's already full of yesterday's tea. So you must become empty, not in a bleak or hopeless way, but like a bowl that's clear, open, ready, empty enough to receive, empty enough to be filled again, not with the old flavors of joy, not with the familiar emotional fireworks, but with something so new, so subtle, so unnamed that you won't recognize it first. Yet when it arrives, you'll know. Now, I realize this is not the pep talk you were hoping for. You were waiting for the magic formula, the secret switch that would bring back the old spark, restore the sweetness of life, make you feel exactly as you used to. But I can't give you that, because nothing has gone wrong. What you're facing isn't a malfunction. It's a metamorphosis. You're not meant to return to the old way of feeling. You're meant to move through this, the way a caterpillar dissolves inside a cocoon. That phase of life, the crawling, munching, happy caterpillar days, is over. And right now, you're not a butterfly either. You're, well, psychic soup. And if soup could think, it would probably panic too. But this mush phase isn't a mistake. It's the process itself. Stay with it. Don't run. Don't try to plaster artificial joys over the emptiness. Let the flatness be flat. Let the colorlessness be colorless. Let all sit untouched, undistorted, unrushed. Over time, not your time, but life's time, something will shift. Not backwards, back toward the old highs, but forward into something you haven't known before. A new way of experiencing existence that isn't powered by contrast, adrenaline, or emotional fireworks. A way of being that finds sufficiency simply in being. This is what mystics across ages have whispered about, not a state of endless bliss, which is just another form of craving, but a deep inner all-rightness that remains steady through pleasure and pain alike. A recognition that your existence is already complete, not because everything is perfect, but because you are whole at your core. The old joys were like trying to improve a sunset by adding extra colors to it. The new recognition is seeing that the sunset was perfect before you try to decorate it. It doesn't need anything added. Neither do you. Neither does this moment. Even the joyless one you're in right now. But here is the part people resist the most. You cannot force this realization. You cannot muscle your way into it. Any effort to achieve this state reinforces a belief that something is missing, and that very belief pulls you in the opposite direction. The recognition comes only when striving ends. And even then, it may arrive quietly, like a whisper instead of trumpet. It may come and go. It may be so subtle you barely notice. It will not feel like fireworks. It will feel like taking off tight shoes, or finally exhaling, or coming home. So, what do you do while you're here, in this strange in-between where nothing brings joy? You live. You do what needs to be done. You brush your teeth. Eat your meals, tend to your responsibilities, but you do them without expecting these actions to deliver happiness. You do them simply because they're what the moment asks for, with a soft, neutral acceptance. And you watch. You watch the state without judgment, without resistance, with the kind of gentle curiosity you might bring to watching clouds drift by, not demanding they be dramatic, not insisting they be beautiful, just watching. And most importantly, you stop comparing. Stop comparing who you are now with who you were before. Stop comparing your life to other people's highlight reels. Stop imagining a future moment when everything will magically feel right again. Be here now with what is. This isn't resignation, it's participation. It's showing up fully for your life instead of yearning for a different one. And paradoxically, the moment you stop insisting that life return to its previous form is the moment the new form can enter. What blocks transformation is a nostalgia for the old joys, the insistence that life should feel the way it used to. So here's a final thought for you, offered gently. Maybe nothing brings you joy anymore because you've outgrown the kind of joy you used to seek. Maybe your inner landscape has expanded and the small pleasures, the shallow satisfactions can no longer hold it. Not because you're superior, but because you're evolving. A child delights in candy. A youth thrills in romance and adventure. An adult seeks accomplishment and recognition. But some people grow further still. They see the limitations of pleasure, the fragility of excitement, the fleeting nature of stimulation. And then what happens? They're brought back to the simplest truth of all, existence itself. The raw fact of being here, conscious, breathing, compared to glitter of candy or romance. This may seem like nothing, but it's actually everything. It's what was present before you learned to chase. It's what remains when the chase ends. It's not emptiness, it's fullness. Not absence, but presence. Not a dead void, but the quiet foundation of all life. What you're being asked to discover is that there is nothing more extraordinary than this moment. This breath, this quiet, unadorned miracle of being alive. Not because it makes you feel good, but because it's real. And what is real is enough. It has always been enough. You simply forgot until now. So when nothing brings you joy anymore, don't despair. You haven't lost your ability to feel. You've lost your addiction to a particular kind of feeling. And in that loss lies an immense opening, a doorway into another way of being human. Walk through that doorway, not by trying to walk through, but by noticing that you're already standing on the other side. You've been here all along. You just didn't see it because you were too busy searching. Now the searching has fallen away, and that isn't a tragedy. It's the greatest gift life could offer.